let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it. My first slides are very simple. It's, you have your KYC, know your customer. This is going to be KYA, know your audience. Okay, so I want to get to know you a little bit more. We have a very short time to cover what I consider one of the most interesting subjects for the future, augmented reality. Okay, and I'll go into some very basic ideas of AR. But what I want to know is, okay, how many of you know what AR is? And don't be shy, I want to see hands. Okay, so how many of you have used AR? Okay, and then the most important question for me is, how many of you have built something for AR? Wow, okay, that's quite a few. All right, so I have a confession, right? I'm up here, but I'm not an AR expert. I'm an AR newbie. So why am I here? I'm an idea guy, all right? The thing about technology, all right, cool. The thing about technology, and like the last speaker was just talking about, okay, so you know augmented reality, have you used it, have you built it, and then my confession, okay? Technology is a tool, all right? Understanding the tool, understanding the technology allows you to do things, but if you're not creative, innovation is impossible, all right? You need to be able to think, what can you do, all right? What I'm seeing in AR so far is pretty basic. Okay, everybody, Pokemon Go last year was such a rage. What did it do? It stuck a character in front of us. The gameplay, I thought it was quite boring, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through some of the basics of AR so that you start thinking about what are the different parts of AR, how can it be used, and then we're going to go into in some of the categories. We'll talk about some simple ideas. Okay, we're only going to scratch the surface, right? You're going to have to take those ideas and then start innovating and seeing where you can go with it. So the goal, we're not going to do anything deep. We're not going to go very far. We're going to learn some basics. We're going to talk about them in a serious gaming context. And my goal is just to spark your imagination, okay? From what I'm seeing in AR, what my studies are, the first thing that we released is the most basic of basics, okay? I'll show it to you, I'll just mention it at the end, but you use one of our card games, you take the back of the card in front of the phone, and one of our aliens pops up, and it's the most simple thing. Kids go, oh, wow. It was really one of the kind of discouraging experiences, because we've had games that we spent like 8 months working on, and we got a better response from something that took about half an hour to set up. Okay, so so there's a lot to be said. All right, so what does it mean to augment? All right, we're making something bigger, whether or not it's in number, size, strength, or the extent of how it works. All right, now what's interesting is in augmented reality, what we're doing is we're taking extra information and we're laying it onto the real world, okay? Text, 2D images, 3D models, animation, GPS data, info from the web, okay? We're seeing the real world and we're able to add all this extra stuff, okay? How many people have seen AR in movies? How many people saw Minority Report? Okay? Just think about what they're suggesting, okay, what you can do. When you start thinking out of the box of taking this thing, all right, and it could be scary, like you guys could all have tags, and I could have my tablet and I could identify all of you, and if you weren't smiling, it could send you a nasty email. Okay, so bringing all of this together in an innovative way it's unfathomable what we're going to be able to do. Okay, so what's interesting, when I found this slide, I thought it was really fascinating because it's talking about augmented reality and it's talking about other ways of looking at how you're augmenting. And this was hilarious because they're talking about, they had sailboats and they added little ties on the sailboats to be able to tell things about the wind, okay? A rear view mirror was a way to augment your reality. I'm looking this way, but I'm seeing what's behind me, right? And now, you know, when I was in the US this summer, it's like every car I got into, when it went into reverse, the camera showed back. And it not only showed back, but it literally showed you how the distance to the car behind you. It started to change everything. So you had heads-up display in fighters, you have commercial aviation. You go through all these things. And I think that this is really important to think about, because a lot of us like to think, wow, this is new, this is big. You know, I loved when web browsers came out and everybody started talking about the internet. You know, we were doing what was the internet for about 15 years before the internet was, okay? So, and the reason I say this, I'm not a big history fan, okay? But I think that when you look back and you see some of these things, it's gonna spark your imagination, okay? All right, so let's talk about some of the really basic ones that we're now seeing all the time. Okay, how many people have used a Snapchat overlay? Okay, you guys haven't been using Snapchat overlays? This is super cool technology. I have a 15-year-old, I use Snapchat overlays almost daily. Okay, in terms of more direct things where you start really seeing value, okay, makeup apps. Okay, you can have that tablet, you can start seeing what that product looks on you. Okay, you can do it with clothes, you can do it with things. One of my favorite ones are these home products. You can have, you can go into IKEA now. IKEA has an app, or you can be at home with the IKEA app, and you can look and see what will that furniture look like in your home. All right, so this is stuff, and I highly recommend when you think, if you're interested in AR, like, you know, when I recently, somebody gave me a new VR headset. And the first thing I did was put like about 30 VR apps onto my phone, and I just started playing with them. And what did I do? During that playing, it's sparking my imagination. What can I do? How can I change it? What would I do differently? So going in and playing with any kind of AR app will start sparking your imagination for how you might use it, okay? So let's talk a little bit about the spectrum, okay? Just so it's clear, okay? Reality is this. I see you guys, right? Okay? Augmented reality is I'm laying information over it, okay? Mixed reality very often is going to be now with a headset. HoloLens is in that middle group where you can be doing both an experience that's really immersive, but also allows you to see some parts of the reality. And VR is totally virtual. Okay, you have a headset, that's all you're seeing is computer generated information. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay. So the characteristics of AR is you're overlaying the virtual content. It's interactive in real time, if it's working. Okay? You're doing things that are allowing you to interact with this content in real time. It's something that's supposed to be happening now. Okay? And it allows you to have often experience 3D things in the real world. So, and again, as you saw on the earlier slide, you can put any kind of information, but one of the most exciting things, and I think maybe because I come from an animation background, the ability to put 3D objects into augmented reality experiences are very special, especially when you start having, you know, things that let you gesture control, you can manipulate things. You can do things in augmented reality that you simply can't do anywhere else, okay? All right, so before I go on, how many people are making what we call serious games? Education games, okay, so only a few of you. All right, so how many of you are just game developers who want to make AR experiences, okay, AR games? Okay, all right, so one of the things is a learning experience, getting into AR and to be able to understand what it can do it's really good. I mean, first of all, do research And one of the reasons I say that is as I was getting into AR already a couple of years ago when I was talking to some companies about it, what I realized is the cutting edge stuff is being done by corporates. Okay, these big companies are doing amazing things in education. One of the things is, what's really cool about AR is you can do things that you couldn't possibly do or you wouldn't want to do in real life. So you have airlines who are training people to put together planes in a way that they're learning so much faster. Now that one you can do in real life, but you've got people training in highly complex, dangerous situations. So how do you handle nuclear fuel? Okay, that's something that used to be difficult, if not impossible, to teach somebody. Now you can learn all the steps to do that with an augmented reality situation, and then from there, you can actually have had practice, okay? So what I wanted to make clear is for AR has a variety of different devices that you can use, okay? You can do it on your phone. You can have goggles. You can have VR-like headsets, okay? And this was just a slide that has all the other kind of devices that you had. So this is the core of what I want to talk about. Okay, so what are the key things that AR does, and how do we use them? It lets us visualize. It will allow us to guide, and then it allows us to interact. Okay, what I'm seeing in AR experiences so far, from the entertainment gaming standpoint, is almost 90% visualize. We love this idea that suddenly we're putting content into it. But as we start talking about different cases and different ideas, like I said, I'm just going to give one for each of these to start talking about serious gaming. But as we go into this, you'll start seeing that the possibilities are completely endless. You can just do anything, and the ways you can put them together is just incredible. Okay, so visualizing. Visualizing is bringing that content we talked about earlier into the AR experience. So here we have, with Pokemon Go, we were able to have the phone, we had the gameplay, we were seeing the Pokemon in the real world. Okay, in some of the game stuff that, there's games now where you can play with the games. They interact with their real world. They can lay over the real world. If they're done well, they can interact with the real world. Okay, so let's look at just a very small little video, stuff you've seen everywhere. There we go. So this is just some visualized examples. Okay, so what is it? It's just simply taking the content, and I just used very simple, mostly 3D content, and you're visualizing. You're seeing things that you wouldn't normally see before, okay? Anybody have examples of things for visualize that they've seen that was really impressive to them? No? Okay, so what I'm seeing a lot in education, we're seeing like different experiences. You go to the zoo, and then suddenly you can interact with 3D characters on big screens. One of the funniest things is, again, you go to, now some of the malls have large screens, and you're walking along and suddenly there's a dinosaur next to you. Okay, so these are all augmented reality experiences. Now, what they're not talking about is getting into the depth of how you visualize things. Think about visualizing things in ways that aren't just simple, okay? So being able to see what can't be seen. So what happens if you have an AR app that allows you to point at a person, and for serious gaming, maybe you're doing something in education on biology, suddenly you can see the inside, and you can go where you can choose, I want to see the skin, You go into the layer of the skin. I want to go just under the skin. I can see the muscles. I want to go under the muscles. I can see the bones. I go under the bones to see the organs, all right? You can start visualizing things in ways that before they were film-like experiences, right? But now think about what happens when it becomes interactive. When I come up with the phone and I point it at him, and the phone realizes this is a human body, and I can start as if I'm training to be a doctor, or if I'm training to be a nurse, and I'm suddenly able to interact with this person in a different way to understand that, okay? Now, that's educational. How do you make it a game? How do you make it a game? All right, so in terms of the opportunities for serious gaming, for games that get us to think about different things in different ways, the opportunities are just mind-boggling. Okay, think about what if you had a war game? Okay, you had a war game, and let's say, and this, I'm just literally making this up at this moment. Okay, so you have a war game, and you're running around, and you're shooting people. Okay, and I'm playing against him, and I shoot him, and he gets a signal that he's down. So now he has to lay down on the ground, and I go over, and now I can see what has that bullet done to him. Boom. How does that change how the player thinks about the violence of war or a shooting game? I don't know. It may be that. Maybe they love it. I don't know. I hope not. But I'm saying is that when you think about this idea of visualizing what you could never visualize before, the opportunities in all kinds of gaming, but in serious gaming, in games that are meant to go beyond just being play, just being entertainment. And it was funny because yesterday I had been one of the projects that was asked to pitch to investors. And I was talking to some guys beforehand, and he was like, wow, Greg, you're really lucky. Because in the startup community, we're always talking about solving problems. And he's like, what problems do games solve? And I said, well, they solve boredom. Okay, but but I'm making a game, and I'll tell you a little bit about it at the very end. I'm making a game that actually helps schools overcome behavioral problems, bullying, things like that. He said, wow, that's really cool. And for me, those people who are working in serious games, I mean, there are some amazing games that put people in a position, I have a friend who was working on something with Israelis and Palestinians, doing a game that really helped them understand what it was like to be on the other side. Okay? So when you talk about AR, you add a whole nother layer, a whole nother thing of being able to interact and give information that it just wasn't possible, okay? And now with fast internet connections, databases, you're gonna be able to do all this stuff in real time, interactively. It's just the possibilities are amazing, okay? So guide. What are we talking about guiding? All right, and I'm going to show you like one of what I consider one of the really cool apps that's being done by car companies. So you can have the ability to give information, and some of it can be in real time interacting with different people in different parts of the world, or it can be like your ability to just get information based on geolocating or different circumstances. So let's watch another small little video.
David, of course, can see my whole workspace, and I can also add anything I want into that workspace. So I've got this.
Sorry, I should have prefaced this. So this is, I think it's Volkswagen. There's one guy who's in front of the car. There's another guy in a totally different city who, the guy in front of the car has HoloLenses on. And the guy elsewhere has, I believe it's an iPad. He has an iPad, so he's seeing what that guy is seeing. And so he's seeing it on the tablet. Now this is, and then they're going to be able to communicate based on AR.
Standard remote AR interface here, which I can actually position wherever I want. I'm going to pick the draw tool. Now I can just go ahead, draw right onto that scene in 3D, as you can see. I can also do something like pick the arrow tool, drop an arrow right there, and as you can see, that's fully 3D, sticks right where it's placed from any angle. So David, is that the part that you were talking about before?
Yeah, no, actually it's not, Graham. I was talking about this box right here, and you're gonna remove screws right there and right there as well.
Is that amazing? So you're literally able to interact. You can say, you know, and this is a very important thing, like if you're a home mechanic or whatever and you needed some help, to be able to suddenly go in and say, oops, no, 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 don't do that. Do it here, here, and here. Like, think about this problem. Think about this problem and think, how was that problem solved before? Now, when I was growing up, we fixed our own cars. We had a book, okay? And often we were like, no, I misunderstood what the book said. But if you have an expert who can just say, nope, it's that screw and that screw, think about what you can do with it, right? Now let's think about it. So now let's think about it in terms of creating serious games. When you let your imagination go, okay? And it's one of the things, I think that, how many of you work for game development companies? Really? Only a few of you, okay. What are the rest of you guys doing here? No, I'm just joking. So one of the things that I tell people, and I come from a writing background. And in writing, we have a saying, don't get it right, get it written. Okay, so when you're starting, you know, you don't think, oh gosh, I only have $10,000 to make this film. You know, you just write what you think you want to write. And you write it, and then you get into editing and changing and all those things. As you're thinking about augmented reality, I challenge you to do the same. Think big. Okay, think about what are all the things you can do. So think about a serious game where, say it's a role-playing game, okay? One character is the one that's going to be giving some of the information, and that could be fed to them as their player personality, and the other one has to follow different instructions or find different instructions. So you can have a multiplayer game where people are running around in the real world, and they're being guided by another player. Okay? It's this ability to give instructions, the ability to take all this other content, text, 2D, 3D, video, web information, and lay it over is, it just changes gaming. Now what's interesting, if you think about games that we've been experiencing for decades now, they actually do a lot of that already, right? You have a heads-up display, it's giving you all this information, it's saying go here, go there, okay? But now think about it. You can do it in the real world, okay? You're in the real world, and suddenly the game is saying, no, 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 next corner, go right, okay? And based on, like, say you're, you know, with Google Maps and all the information, they can, you know, you may do, you know, one crazy is going to say, go into the pharmacy, go into the chemist, and you've got to find this product, and you've got to put the price in it, all right? And again, if it's a serious game, you're going to hopefully connect that piece of information to something key to learning, something important. But I'm just trying to give you some ideas about the ability to lay that information and guide people based on that augmented reality experience. As I was doing research for this presentation, what I found is a lot of people saying that Interact for AR is the least, they've done the least, okay? And actually, I have to admit, as I was like, I'm going to show you a video. This is all from a MIT project on connecting AR to real life devices. I realized that even I was having a hard time, you know, thinking about how would we use this in serious gaming? How would we interact with the AR in a way that it's actually connecting to the real world? And I put this near the end because I want to have a little bit of discussion and see what happens. But let's just watch this little video. And this is basically, at MIT, they're taking real-life devices that basically it's all Internet of Things, and they're connecting it in a way where the AR app lets them make things happen.
Imagine you could sit on your workspace and every object around you, appliances on your desk, your light, your chair, everything around you is not set how it should behave. If you want, you can connect a knob to a light or to two lights and control them. At the same time, that knob could also control the chair that you're sitting on. Or imagine the chair that you're sitting on actually is responsive to the environment. So if you leave, the environment reacts on you leaving because you wanted it, so you set it up.
Now again, I'm being totally honest. When I started seeing this, the biggest challenge I had is, how am I going to put that into a game? How do you augment the actual interaction with the physical world? And so let's just take a few minutes. Any ideas? Anybody working on something or have an idea that popped in your head for how you would connect your augmented reality experience to things in the real world? Okay, we're all together then. So it's a big challenge. What's that? Biometrics? Okay. So that would be an interesting thing. So like a lot of, see, I'm specifically interested in gaming that borders on, what we do is more social impact stuff. But so there's huge fields, healthcare, education. They're doing really interesting things and bringing in augmented reality. So that might be part of the gaming part of it. I have a theory that the brain works differently when you're playing a game. So for education, for changing the way people think about things, I believe games are possibly the best way to actually get people to learn things that are very deep and intricate. And so I think that this is something that I've been sitting and I've really been thinking about how you would do it. Now, one of the interesting things, one of my really good friends from Goa, he has an IoT company. And that made me think about, because when I bought his product, just to be nice, it's this little tiny thing. And I started to think, it's like, wow, you take that, and when it gets down to be small enough and inexpensive enough that, players might get like your game in 3 of these devices, and they may, you may have different things that you might do with it. All of those things are possible. And then, I guess the other thing that's in my head is we're getting a lot of devices, right? So you get these sports bands, okay, or you get smartphones. So suddenly you could integrate and say, and you just gave me an idea. So you got your sports band or your smartphone. What does it do? It takes your heart rate, right? So you can connect that and a retinal scan. But I'm just thinking about, wouldn't it be fun if like you're playing and you're following a character, and what are you hearing? You're hearing their heartbeat, and you're starting to connect it to reality, right? And it may be that you may be a role-playing, okay? So maybe your job in the team is the doctor, and you're getting that heartbeat, and you're like, oh no, and your job now is you have to talk them down. They're getting too excited, okay? So the possibilities are simply endless, okay? And that's not to say that you're going to use all of these at the same depth level in everything that you do. Like what this guy was doing, just connecting the lights, was, for me, that was more than, that's just super cool. Hold on, there we go. So in interacting, as you're thinking about different games, the thing that when I first started researching AR, so it was very funny. I had, like 3 years ago, fairly early in my project, I get a call from Bangalore. And it's these guys from, this German company that makes tools, Bosch. These Bosch guys called me I'm like, what's Bosch? I know them as, they make really good tools, they make car parts. And what are they doing? They were creating augmented reality apps, mostly to do dangerous things. But they'd heard about what I was doing, and they saw my characters, and they're like, wow, we should do something together. Okay, and when I saw their presentation, I was like, that is so cool. Because what they're doing is they're using it for training. So think about what happens if you have on a pair of goggles that let you see the real world and know everything about it. So I'm looking at a car, and instead of having somebody tell me, the program is saying, that's the carburetor, that's this, and literally you can just look around, and it's telling you everything. And with gesture control, you can say, it's idling too fast. It'll say, open up the carburetor, and it'll show you this screw, this screw, this screw. Okay, so. And it's interesting how things develop. Like a lot of people don't know, and some of us don't like the fact that, some of the best research that's done on really innovating things is done by the military. Okay, these guys get tons of money. They get to experiment on all these different things. The same by corporates. Like a lot of the augmented reality stuff that we're seeing is coming from guys who are using it in very specific business sense, okay? For serious gaming, okay, it's really, taking some of those ideas, seeing what those people are doing, and figuring out how can you use that to educate and entertain, okay? So we just going to tell you a couple of things we're working on. We make both digital games and physical games. So this is a game called Acting Kindly at School. It's a printed card game. This is what's called a classroom pack, so it's what schools will buy. It has a great booklet that gives lots of ideas on how to play, and it comes with 15 decks. It's a totally cooperative experience where young people are running around performing acts of kindness and silly things. And what we found is performing an act of kindness with somebody else or doing something silly is an amazing bonding experience. When you do that, you create friendships. And what we've done is we've created a little AR app. So if you're interested in it, come and I'll give you one of the cards. And the AR app just allows you to take the kindness aliens and put them in the real world. They move around with the card. You can change which alien's there, you can make them dance, and you can share it on social media, okay? What I really wanted to show you, and again, AR is not easy. The tools aren't really, the ones I've been using aren't really totally there yet. Okay, so we did a game jam and we created and this is a super simple idea, but I want, again, to spark your, what Planet Earthlings is about is creating cooperative, collaborative experiences. So at a game jam in the US, what we did is we created a game called Poof, okay? And what we wanted to do is to create something that was cooperative. So what we did is we created an app, 2 players. I have the phone, the other player has the card. They move the card. On the phone, I see their 3D character running around in 3D space, and there's a ball. And the ball is zipping around. And I have to tell the other player how to catch the ball. So you create a 2-person experience where you're helping each other. So left, no, back, no, okay, got it. Okay, and then you switch around. So it's augmented reality. You're interacting with the physical thing, controlling the thing. It's a super simple idea, but this is the kind of thing that you can start doing that is really quite different. Okay, and that's it. So there's my contact information. I'm based in Goa. If there's anything I can do to help, I take some time every day to try to help others. If I'm busy, I'll let you know. Don't just send me messages saying hi, like you want to say hi, I'm really busy, okay? And I believe in kindness, but I get annoyed too, all right? All right, so I hope there are going to be questions. Do you have questions? This is my least favorite thing. Really, there's no questions? Nobody has an idea about AR that they really want to talk about? Okay, thank you very much.